Hello and welcome. We're here at Holistic Investments, and I'm your host, Konstantin Kogan. I'm really excited to have this conversation today about the data privacy and security. And I'm really excited to have our guest today, Mark Kreutzmann, who's a general manager of Afani. Hi, Mark.
Hello, thank you for having me on.
I'm really lucky to have you on because they're with with emerging like threat of like cybersecurity and like different hacks ranging from SIM-swap attacks to different other surveillance on your phones and other things. They're getting more and more often. So this will be a great educational piece. And before we start, as as traditionally we talk about the compliance side of things. So this content is for informational purposes only. You should not construe any such information or other material as legal, tax, investment, financial, any other advice. Now, we can talk about anything we want, right? But to begin with, like I want to talk about you, Mark, right? Because this is a conversation about your journey. We're starting any business, which I believe like somehow like related to our core values and our core needs, how you want to help the humanity, how you want to change the world to be a better place. So I want to hear about like how did you get to mobile security? How you become interested in like, this type of like niche product? So tell us about your journey, please.
Yeah, so to get where I am today, I would say it's like a 23-year journey. So I've been building cybersecurity, enterprise security type companies since around 2001. I've got 10 years working for a mobile carrier. I've built a couple enterprise security companies for founders, one that got bought by Cisco Systems, another acquired by Microsoft. And then I happened to be in the middle of trying to do my own startup. And I was in Arizona. It's in the middle of really like the early stages of COVID, trying to figure out what am I going to do next. And I happened to get mobile hacked in the middle of the desert between Tucson and Phoenix. And I'm out in the desert by myself in the car. There's no phones out there and nobody to help. And so my decision was to either do I go find like a Walmart and see if I can borrow somebody's phone to call my carrier and deal with the mobile hack. And I decided that, well, it was almost as quick just to drive to my father's house. I pulled up to the garage, Wi-Fi hit, 6 password resets went up my phone, and the panic set in. And I knew what had already happened, but then when I saw these password resets go up my phone, then that's when I realized, okay, this is like real. I'm in panic mode. Ran in the house, called the carrier. It turns out that the hacker took my mobile account away and then 61 minutes ported it back.
Mm-hmm.
And so what happened over the next 90 days is I didn't sleep because I was very fearful that if I had Wi-Fi on, that I'd wake up and I'd get Twitter updates and emails and I wouldn't realize that they may have taken my mobile account away again. And so through that painful process, I hunted down and found only one person on the planet that happened to have solved it, happened to be a guy in Northern California, and contacted him, hit it off. He was a one-man show at the time, and it happened to be that he was sort of ending another startup that he was in the process of selling off, and it was just a one-man show. And I told him, hey, I got 20 years of doing this. I want to help you take it to market. And we renamed his startup to Afani, and this was about 4 years ago. So the mobile hack happened to be like hit me like right at the right time when I was sort of trying to figure out what it is I wanted to do. And it was through that pain that I am now here 4 years later, and we've got a profitable, growing company, and we're solving people's problems. So it's more of a startup. I would say it's actually more of like a passion project at the same time. So it's a long story of how we got here, but
Yeah,
I love the story. I actually like telling the story because it went from pain to pain to pride, I guess is a good way to say it.
yeah, it seems like, you went through your personal catharsis, right? And that helps you to grow and to embrace the pain and to understand that, okay, well, if you went through this, right, obviously there's multiple other people who go through this experience. And I want to admit publicly that I was SIM swap attacked 2 times, and one time I got lucky. I just like just notice it really fast, right? And the second time I wasn't lucky, right? So you take your chances. If you don't protect your assets or your passwords, like there's a huge risk. And then what I like about like how you punchline, how you explain it to people, like like in your even in your LinkedIn, is like 80% of mobile device attacks are successful, right? So maybe you can elaborate a little bit, like and explain what do you mean by that.
Yeah, so that's actually out of a Princeton study.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a direct quote out of a Princeton study. So Princeton, this was I think it was about 2 years ago, just a little under 2 years ago. They actually had a study where they set up a bunch of mobile accounts and then had another group attempt to SIM swap them.
Mm-hmm.
And they were able to be successful. I think it was 79 point some percent of the time. And for the other 21%, where they weren't successful, in the article that there's a bunch of articles about it, where they said that they still got like birthday information, they got start date, call records, different things about it. And what that means is that if they would have just made the study longer, because they have that kind of information, that would have allowed them to probably make that number even higher.
Mm-hmm.
But that percentage actually came out of a Princeton study.
Yeah, I've seen this study actually. Like we're gonna publish it as well. Like it's sad. First of all, it's sad. Secondly, it's scary, right? So a lot of my friends were SIM swapped, so I know firsthand like how crazy it is, and we're gonna talk about it today, right? Some of the high profile people like Michael Turpin were SIM swapped and like lost a lot of money, right? And still, I think still in a
Yeah.
lawsuit with one of the top telecommunication firm. So let's debunk all the myth and explain, like, first of all, the process, or how does it occur, right? And then we're like, what's the problem of that even happening? Is that even possible, right? And then we're going to talk about like what is the solution, right?
Yeah, well, let's for one, let's debunk a couple myths. And I was doing a video on SIM swapping like a week ago, and I thought I was doing a video on VPNs, and through that process, I was watching some videos that were there saying like, hey, how to prevent SIM swaps by doing these 3 things. And I would watch those and I'd be like, everybody that's a victim calls us and they've set the pin. They've done the 3 things that all these influencers say, and they still get hit. So the other thing to make sure that people are clear on is that you don't have to have your physical phone stolen away. It has nothing to do with that. And so the way that I explain it is that you could have the most secure phone on the planet. You could have paid $5,000 for this phone. You could have the best antivirus, the best data deletion strategy, the best VPN, put in a Faraday bag, take that Faraday bag, put it in a safe, drop that in a lake. The hackers do not care. SIM swappers do not care where your phone is, what kind of phone it is. And they don't even care how complex your passwords are. Now, you want to make your passwords fairly complex, but whether it's like 16 characters or 20 characters, they don't care, because they're just simply using a forgot password function.
Mm-hmm.
And so what SIM swaps are is basically they're either tricking somebody at a carrier, a phone store, or they're bribing somebody like at a phone store, third-party store, or call center, or that person at the carrier is actually the nefarious person. And they don't have to actually be doing the SIM swap. They could actually be the person that's helping somebody else do it. So there's a lot of inside jobs that happen. And so it's through bribery, it's through trickery, impersonation. And all they're doing is they're simply getting the carrier to point your mobile account away from the SIM card or eSIM in your phone to their phone. And they can be your next door neighbor, but they could also be thousands of miles away. They could actually be out of the country and do this. And there's been a number of people outside the country that have been arrested, like in the UK. You can Google, like there's like gangs of people in the UK that have been SIM swapping people in the US. And the US people were just targeted more. partially because of our love of crypto here, and the average income and the average investment that people have, and so it's just a better place to target. I think also the carriers are just a little bit more open, and so it's through that bribery, it's through that trickery and impersonation, and it's not just SIM-swap security. There's privacy, there's how you use your phone, and we'll talk about some of those things.
In a nutshell, the way I understand it happens, correct me if I'm missing something, right? So we have the major carriers, right? And they all range in different security measurement, and some of them are less, I was prone to protect the customer. Some of them are more. I want to talk about it openly as well. So it doesn't matter if you're AT&T, Verizon, or T-Mobile, right? You're still a target, number one. So second point, right? If you're a public person, especially people in crypto who are, a lot of them are very public, and sometimes they brag about, how much they invest and how much, they have in their wallets, right? So this is already, you are like in a number one zone or risk zone, right? And what I understand that, as you mentioned, right, it doesn't have to be person doesn't have to be nearby, so they can be somewhere in North Korea or even Russia or other places, and they just can emulate that as if they're calling through VoIP, and just fake, the voice, because they already have, a friend, so to speak, a nefarious person, as you mentioned, someone who works in the telecommunication company. And by the way, it's important to mention the way it works. It doesn't mean that the person is working in the US. As we know, to optimize the profits, a lot of the telecommunication companies outsource, the personnel, especially account management and customer support. So they can be somewhere in other places in the world, like, I don't know, let's just say India or maybe other places where, they can just it's easier to approach them a little bit, right? And the lawsuits also taking longer, etc. So let's start from basic, right? So you're already a target and you're in this risk zone, right? So what are the first steps you can do to try to avoid it?
Okay, so to avoid it, so there's a number of small steps. So we can start. Should we start with the big one, like how you can avoid it with the Fani? So because that's the easiest one to do.
Or you can explain, maybe you can explain one of those 3 suggestions that are given, and they're like the most popular, but they don't work, and what is missing there, and what Fani brings to the table that is like upper level security.
Okay, so one of the things that a lot of people recommend when you watch these videos of how to protect yourself from SIM-swap is, again, this PIN. So this mythical PIN that if you call your carrier and add a 4-digit PIN or a 6-digit PIN, and I'm not saying that you shouldn't do it. I mean, you should do it. So you want to have a PIN, but I would just say that it's almost irrelevant, and because everybody can test this. So call your carrier and say, hey, can you tell me how much data I've used on my account? Just something very simple, and they're going to want to verify you. And so they'll ask you a couple questions. One of the first questions they may ask is, what's your PIN? And then just test them and say, I can't remember what my PIN is. And the chances are they're going to say, okay, we can verify you another way. Mm-hmm. And now, in the case of what these hackers have already done, is they've already researched you. Like, they're not going to just call up anybody randomly and try and SIM swap them. They've already researched who Mark is, where do I work, all my past addresses. And the data collection at this point on all of us is to the point where you don't even need to know somebody's history. You don't even need to know their name anymore. If you just simply have their mobile number, you can actually, there's tools you can put somebody's mobile number in, and it will tell all the past jobs you've had, all the past addresses, all the emails attached to that phone number. And then when you get these basic things like, addresses and jobs and siblings and parents, then there's AI tools you can run against that take it like 2 or 3 layers deep, that can say, the original search might have been on your mobile number. Now it can say, okay, this mobile number has 1 email attached to it. And then these AI search tools can say, what's attached to that email? And that might find like email IDs that you don't even you didn't even remember you're still, you're still active, and you just maybe haven't used it for years. And so they've already done this research. So when they want to hit you, and so you want to be very private with your personal information. And a lot of people will do things like set up their phone, like their iCloud or their Android phone with a Gmail account, and then they use that Gmail account and they set up their Coinbase, their Exodus, with that same email, and then they're emailing friends, and they use that for Facebook. And you're just setting it up like bowling pins for these hackers when you do that. And so you really want to separate out your personal email from your private email. You might want to have 1 or 2 or 3 specific for like crypto accounts if you have, different types of crypto accounts. And so you just want to make it difficult for these hackers. And then hopefully that if you are one of the targets, then just make it hard, because they're going to have a list of 100 other people behind you. And they're going to know, they know that there's going to be 50 other people that'll be fairly easy, that will have no security. And so hopefully what you've done enough in terms of keeping yourself private and secure that they'll skip over you.
What about 2FA? How potent is it? So email, we understand, still can be hacked, right? Okay, so the best advice, just to separate it. What about two-factor authentication?
So just regular SMS authentication is a danger. The problem is that 80% of U.S. financial institutions right now will only do SMS verification. And so it's almost hard to live at this point and make a living without having some kind of SMS verification for something. And the next layer of security would be the authenticator apps. And a lot of people will get an authenticator app and think, okay, well, I've got that, so now I don't have to worry about a SIM swap. And so, but that's not true. And so, and we get calls from people all the time where there's this lady, double engineer out of Silicon Valley, and this goes back like a year ago, and she had like 3 different crypto accounts, 3 different devices, 3 different authenticator apps, 3 different emails. And she was training people on how to invest in crypto. And so she was telling me that a hacker stole her mobile account, SIM swap, got into an email account, daisy chained through, reset passwords to 3 emails, reset all of the 3 authenticator apps. And it didn't matter. These authenticator apps were like even on different devices. So a lot of people think like, well, I use Coinbase on this device, but my authenticator apps over here. Again, like hackers don't care where that app lies. It's sort of, it's pretty irrelevant. And, so even those authenticator apps, if somebody SIM swaps you, get into your email, they're going to search for app notifications. So they'll be able to find like that you use Bank of America, Wells Fargo, Exodus, Bitfinex, Coinbase, that you're using Duo or, Google Authenticator. And so now within 10 minutes, they can profile, okay, now how do I need to go after this person? And so the other thing.
So just to clarify, if you have a Google Authenticator, right, how can they get the password? Because it's changing all the time, every 30 seconds or something like that.
They're going to reset the Authenticator app, period.
Got it.
You just reset it all. Now there are ways to have a certain Authenticator app where you can set it up, with like a private key and things like that will make it more secure, make it much harder. But the normal person doesn't, typically take it to that level. And then of course, like YubiKey would be the next one. And so any kind of application you're using, especially in crypto, if you can use the physical key, you want to do that. But the one thing that people will forget about is, and applications all work kind of differently, but you want to make sure that, let's say you have a YubiKey set up for a crypto app, but you started out with SMS, then you added the authentication app, then you add a YubiKey. Now there's certain applications where if they can SIM swap you and get into that application, they can actually go into your settings and remove verification methods. And so we've had cases where people have been SIM swapped and had the YubiKey verification method removed. So you want to make sure that whatever app you're using, if you go to that next level of security, that you also don't have the easier one still set up. So you don't want to have your YubiKey authentication somehow modified or removed just because they SIM swapped you. And then, of course, cold storage. But even if you have cold storage, the most, the people that I talk to, even if they have a lot of money on cold storage, they still typically will have, 5-10% of their crypto, for example, sitting in, Coinbase or some kind of account where they can trade and play on those kind of daily type things.
Yeah, MetaMask or somewhere,
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so now let's talk about the next level, like security and protection. How Efani can help to kind of protect you on a level that like it's either unhackable or it's like merely like so complex that they would prefer not to do it. And as you mentioned, go after 50 people that they'll be much easier.
Yeah, so Funny eliminates the SIM swaps, and what we do, it's very, very simple, and most people get it within 90 seconds. And so what we do is we resell AT&T and Verizon, and customers get a choice. So if you're on T-Mobile, Verizon, or AT&T today, then you can move your mobile number, or you can get a new number with us. But most people just port their current number over to us and then choose AT&T or Verizon. And then we retain exclusive account control. And what I mean by that is that we lock out the stores, the phone stores, the call centers from having any access into your account. So if you're on AT&T through Efani, for example, it's to the point where even if you went physically into an AT&T store, handed them your phone, your driver's license, your passport, and just asked something simple like, what's my billing date? They'll look for like 90 seconds or less, sort of have a confused look on their face and say, I see you're using AT&T, but I can't access this. Mm-hmm. And so that's all by design. So we've removed all the middlemen that can be tricked or bribed or be an insider to attack you or sell your information or work with somebody else in order to attack you. So we're removing all of that, and then we retain control of that. We also eliminate, and like if you're on AT&T and move to us, then we remove the information about you, so the carrier no longer knows who you are. So the people even in the store can't see that you're using Efani, and so you get privacy out of that. So if there's like data collection or carriers like selling data, or you happen to even, let's say you go to the Bitcoin conference in Miami, or you go to some financial investment conference in Vegas, there's people that might be walking around with what they call IMSI catchers, and these are cell tower spoofers collecting data. So if they collect data on, let's say, 5,000 people, and they get IMSI numbers of everybody's SIM card and eSIMs, well, those SIM cards, they can get people's names. So one example of why this privacy matters is because they'll get name from their suppliers based on these SIM numbers, but with the Efani one, they can't get it, so that information won't be there. And so we're adding privacy to that. And then the way we secure our customers is we have an 11-layer verification process. And so half of those are like the ones you would expect. These are, what name do we have on file for you? What's your payment method? What's your email? What's, your mobile number? But we do and we change it around because we don't want somebody to reverse engineer, but we text customers, want them to text back. We may email a customer and say, read what I just emailed you to the email on file, respond back to it with this specific message. And so we're going through those layers to make sure that nobody can ever get SIM swapped. And so to this day, we have billionaire customers, we have a true billionaire customers, we have crypto billionaire customers, we have some of the biggest crypto influencers as customers, professional athletes, we have people in Hollywood, celebrities, all the way, we also have teachers, doctors and lawyers and your everyday type customer as well. But for 4 years, we've never had a SIM swap.
So it's also impressive in terms of SIM swap, but I want to also mention about briefly mention about IMSI catcher, right? So for someone who don't remember, IMSI is like International Mobile Subscriber Identity Catcher, right? So we're talking about a type of attack which is called eavesdropping, right? So when there's a device using for intercepting mobile phone traffic, right? They basically
Yeah.
emulate the fake, mobile tower, and they try to capture all your data, right? So can you elaborate about this a little bit more as well? So how can you protect with Afani, like, from this type of attack?
Yeah. So in terms of protecting against the actual IMSI catcher trying to collect data, so we're working on that solution, and we are working on a solution we call Black Seal. We hope to have it around middle of 2024. Well, it will protect like location tracking and against IMSI catchers. And so the defense that we would provide against an IMSI catcher today would be really more on the privacy part of it, in the sense that the IMSI catcher cannot get information about like you relative to like the IMSI number of your SIM or your eSIM. So it's a very difficult thing to protect against, and right now we're adding privacy as part of that defense strategy of an IMSI catcher. So you still want to take other precautions, which, when people ask me like, so what are the general things people can do to secure their, digital life? I mean, I've got, a couple recommendations as part of, that list, like using VPNs and then one of the features of our service, and I don't know if AT&T, Verizon, or T-Mobile, if this is, standard as part of their service, but we offer Wi-Fi calling globally. And what I mean by that is that anywhere you are in the world, if you're using Afani and you're behind a Wi-Fi connection. So for example, right now, I'm in Singapore right now, I'm behind a Wi-Fi connection. And if you call my US mobile number, it's going to ring right here, sitting in the hotel room here. And then I can also through Wi-Fi calling call. Now, the reason that's a benefit is because Wi-Fi calling enables both a voice and SMS. And voice and SMS through Wi-Fi calling is encrypted. So that means you call me, I'm encrypted on my end. You text me, I'm encrypted on my end. And I can also be anywhere in the world. And let's say I want to verify and get into, an app that requires just, SMS. I can receive that SMS and it'll be secure on my end. And I always recommend, Wi-Fi calling as part of people's strategies. So when I'm even at home, I'm using Wi-Fi calling features for both SMS and for voice.
Now, so that's actually very interesting. I've tried this like when I was in Middle East. I just came back, so I've tried this feature, right? Obviously, just as a test. I didn't have an opportunity to verify the level of security, but I trust your words in it. Now, but there is another interesting use case which I want to discuss with you. Some people might have multiple numbers, right? So they might use one number for, let's say, United States, another number for Europe or Singapore, anywhere they're traveling, right? So it's a bit challenging to like protect all of them, right? So what would be your advice for someone like that? Like, for example, they have one primary number for, I don't know, friends and basic social communication, another number that is Afani attached to all the exchanges and, other more like sensitive data, right? So is there like a package that you offer to people that can cover also multiple numbers?
No, so every different number is just, a line for us. Now, in terms of like how our customers set it up, I mean, as you can imagine, we've got every kind of setup for our customers, because we have people that are deep into the privacy side of it and people that are deep into the security. And then there's people that just want just absolute, protection all around. So we have people that will use like an Afani number, and they'll make that the private number. And everything that's proprietary, everything they want secure, everything they, could be blackmailed over, or they just, want to keep private, they attach to their Afani number. And so anything that you have any kind of value that's money wise, reputation wise, or even something as simple as like a hosting account. Like if you're a small business and you've got, GoDaddy hosting account and that's tied to your mobile number, then you want that hosting account to be tied to your Afani number. And the reason for that is because as part of our service, we provide a $5 million insurance policy. And so in order for your bank account, your crypto, your any kind of business account, business email to be protected, insured, you want that to be tied to your Afani number. So we have customers that will get Afani, and then they'll get sort of a cheaper service that they use like for public, and that's their family of friends. They use that to register on, websites to just simply get access to different things. We're now having a lot of customers that are adding VoIP, and so people will get, VoIP app, and they'll get 1, 2, 3 different lines. I personally have, I'm in the business, so I have 5 different phones, iOS, Android. I have a de-Googled phone. I've got 3 mobile lines, and I have 3 VoIP numbers. So I've got a US VoIP number, a number out of the UK, and then a number out of Australia. And I do that just because, I like to travel. So, I go to Asia, and if I wanted to go to Europe, then I have a local number that, like if I'm in London, for example, then it gives me a local number. If I'm in Australia, if I wanted to call somebody. So it just gives you sort of a sense of, it's almost like a proxy type, like when you call somebody from another number. And so as a mobile hack victim, I think I probably go a little bit too far. But I've also experienced the pain of what happens when you do get SIM swap. So
For sure.
Most of the time I feel like I haven't gone far enough,
But as they say, better safe than sorry. So
yeah.
the question is like also still like, for example, like as you mentioned, you can have VoIP numbers, you can have multiple numbers, right? But some I would say would still use one as a primary number, especially what is linked to your WhatsApp, Telegram, many other like major accounts, right? So just to clarify, you would still highly recommend that this particular number would be ported to Afani, which is again, you can port an existing number to Afani, right? Or you can pick the new number and then use it, right? So to begin with, mostly it's for US customers, right? I know, but if someone, let's say from Europe or from Asia is watching it, can you work with local numbers as well?
Yeah. So unfortunately, right now we're only selling to the US market. Now, when we roll out our Black Seal solution, the Black Seal solution is, the way it's designed today in our closed beta is based on a global roaming agreement that combines over 400 mobile operators, and you're technically not on a home network. You're roaming 100% of the time. So you're actually would be like, in theory, you could be on the east side of Dallas and be using AT&T, and move to the west side, be on T-Mobile. And so it adds some sort of layers of even more privacy, because you're basically just a guest everywhere. So when we roll that solution out, that actually will be truly mobile. But today we can only sell to US residents. Now the US residents can travel. So as part of our standard service, it includes international data roaming as well. So for one price, we package this in. So if you go to Singapore, London, Brazil, you just let us know that you're going to Europe, Asia, South America, and we're going to say you're set up, have a great trip, and have safe travels, back to the US in a couple of weeks. And you're going to have international data roaming as part of that price without an additional cost.
And how do you say it? Like, are you sending an email, or are you just calling like customer service representative?
If you're a customer, then you can, our customer support is voice. It's 7x24, it's voice. You can message us. We have a chat bot on the website, and then we also have a support email. And so for those type of things, if somebody just simply emails us and it's coming from the email we expect, there may be 2 or 3 other verification steps for that, but just simply say like, okay, you're good for South America. It's for if you're on AT&T version, then there's nothing you really have to do other than notifying us. If you're on our Verizon, then we send you an eSIM for that particular country or region, and you just scan a QR code, and then you have data for your trip.
Got it. So we talked about like, the possible ways to protect on a basic level, but what are the other like secure ways to protect your digital life? I know you write a lot, you give a lot of talks about it, so maybe there are other layers of protection you can add.
Yeah, so like the most obvious one is just how you use your phone. And a lot of people just don't think about it. And at this point, maybe the majority of people kind of understand, like when you get that text that says, You've got an Amazon package waiting for you. And if you don't, click here, if you don't respond in 4 hours, it'll be sent back. Just be really careful about anything that somebody sends you. So even for when people send me emails and I know them, and it may even be internal, it may even be somebody within Afani. And if I look at that email and I have any kind of suspicion around it, I'll actually contact them another way and say, did you send this to me? And so it's very easy to do things like let's say I understand where you live, and then I find a restaurant that's 2 miles away from you. Well, I can take the URL of that restaurant, put that in this other website that generates a tracking link, and it will look close to the original one, and I could email that to you or text you and say, hey, you got to go check this restaurant out. And it's 2 miles down the street from you, and you may have heard the name of the restaurant, think, oh, I've heard of that, I've never been there. You click on it and it brings up that restaurant. So that may have logged information about you. So I may now have your IP address. And if I get a couple bits of information on you, I can now map you. If you've got your location services on your phone, I can actually map you on a device, just like on Google Maps. As you watch that little blue dot go up the road, I can now start to track you. You can hide. You can do the same thing and hide it as a pixel in a photo. So I can send you a photo of a dog or a cat, and you open it. Oh, this is really cute. Yeah, thanks. And meanwhile, I've logged a couple pieces of information, and you have to also be careful. Like you click on a link, and that link could execute code like grabbing the device ID, the IMSI number that you're using T-Mobile, anything else, and just boom, real quick, you click on that link, and it gives me that info. And so now I've done a little research on you. I've got your home address, and now when I call to impersonate you, then and I can say, oh, my device got stolen, and here's my device ID, and this was the IMSI number, and of course I'm calling the right carrier because I got that information as well. So the support rep is going to be thinking like, well, okay, that's got to be him. So when you say like, oh, the PIN, like, what's your PIN? Oh, it's on the device that got stolen.
Yeah.
And so but mentally they're already thinking like, well, how would he get the device ID? And so, you got to be really careful about what you click on. Another thing is VPNs. And when I was doing research on VPNs, because I wanted to do a VPN video, I would see titles like VPNs are no longer valid, or they're only good for a certain amount of times. Now I've worked in a DNS company, and I've worked in encryption and a VPN company in the past. My personal opinion is use a VPN 100% of the time, unless your app just for some reason won't work wherever you're at. Maybe the signal's weak and the VPN's slowing it down. But use a VPN. A lot of people think that, well, I'm going to this website and it's encrypted, and therefore nobody can see what I'm doing. Now the problem is that if I go to, let's say I want to do something that I don't want anybody else to know about. If I go to Tinder.com or like Pornhub.com or even just like Coinbase, BankofAmerica.com, that traffic may be encrypted. But the problem is the DNS queries that went out, the fact that I just wanted to go to Tinder.com. Well, the DNS query that comes from your device or your browser is, I want to go to www.tinder.com, and that gets sent to a DNS server of whoever your internet service provider is. So if you're using Cox Cable, then Cox Cable gets that query. And then that query returns back and says, okay, to go to this website, it's the IP address is 197.42. And that's what really exploded the internet, right? Because you don't have to remember numbers now. It's okay, I want to go to pettoys.com. And so, but through that process, that part of it's not encrypted. But if you use a VPN, then at least that VPN that has a private DNS service as part of it, then you're actually also securing those DNS queries as well. And so you're trusting your VPN provider, but I would trust the VPN provider a lot more than I would an ISP, because the ISPs are collecting everything 100%. They'll tell you. You want to have an antivirus on your phone. You want to use emails like Proton email. I mean, there's other ones, but I don't want to get into the business of like recommending specific solutions. Like I'm not an affiliate type person, but Proton's really popular amongst our heaviest, security and privacy people. Password managers. A lot of people now are doing these data deletion services. And we're building this tool right now where you can put your mobile number in it, and gives you all that information. It connects to like 20 different APIs, and it'll tell you information about yourself just from this mobile number, and it kind of shocks some people where they kind of forget, like, man, I've had this mobile number forever and how much is linked to it. So a lot of people now are going to a data deletion service like Optory or Delete My Data, and trying to have as much information from the internet removed as possible. We're seeing a lot of our customers get Faraday bags now, and for a couple different reasons. So I don't know if you're familiar with Faraday bags, but
yeah, but I think it would be great to explain what it is to the audience.
Yeah, so there's like Faraday cages that are like a hard physical type cage, but a Faraday bag, you can buy them off Amazon. The one that I like is called Go Dark bags, like high quality, and they're like stylish. So like if you want to wear it, it's actually stylish. It's not going to be some ugly Amazon bag that's going to fall apart after 6 months. But a Faraday bag, some people like them because they block the signaling. So if you're the kind of person that likes to sleep with your phone next to you, so I have 2 Faraday bags myself, and so I'll take my devices and I'll put them in that Faraday bag. I put them on the end table. I can still hear the alarm, but it's not getting any kind of signal. And a lot of people think that, well, if I turn my phone off, then nobody's tracking me. And there's a video that this reporter out of New York City did like 2 years ago. And he had 2 phones. He turned one phone off, and then he had one phone turned on, and he drove all over New York City. And he had a data collection tool. He wanted to see how much more data was collected on the live phone. And the shock part of the story was that the phone that was turned off, more data was collected on it. Now, why that would be, no idea. More data was collected on that phone that was completely shut off. As you know, they also now phones are made where you can't take the battery out. And some of these security phones now, actually, they design them on purpose where you can pull the battery out for that reason, because that's really another way that you can do it. But you get an iPhone, you get a Pixel phone, things like that off the shelf, then the battery stuck in them.
I remember the first time, like I thought about the Faraday cage. I was actually from a movie. I forgot which one, when they were having like a conversation between the 2 intelligence agents, and they used a microwave, which is a natural Faraday cage, right? And they just put their 2 phones out there, and I was like, I wonder what it is. And when I read about it, goes famous scientist Michael Faraday, basically it covers you for any like intervention for every frequency, so like you cannot read the data. So technically you're protected for this particular moment, like to talk about anything you want. I mean, unless there is more like advanced surveillance like techniques, which now I've seen actually like incredible technology, which is also scary, where the drones can like secretive drones, they can now, like if you're having a conversation like we're having right now, and they can see through the window, they can read your lips and actually reproduce exactly what you're talking about, right? Without even touching your phone. So
absolutely. Yeah. I mean, even like people are using them. We have customers that are buying Faraday bags also to protect their car keys. Because a lot of people don't really think about it. You come in, you park, and then you go inside and you take your car key and you put it in a bowl or something. It's still sending a signal every once in a while. And so if you stick that in like a Faraday bag or something that's protecting that signal, then obviously it wouldn't be able to get that. But and there's YouTube videos on this where they show how quickly they can just grab that signal and then start your car. And so that's a popular way of stealing somebody's car. So
Wow.
And that gets us customers. I've talked to probably 3 different people in the last couple of months where they called us up and they'd be like, "Oh yeah, I got my car stolen." And so I ended up getting this Faraday bag, and through my research, I ran across Afani, and I'm trying to get secured. So I figured, well, I might as well just add you guys to my portfolio. And yeah, it's kind of like, it's weird. Like it's just really open right now. Mobile communication is a lot more wide open than people really think about.
Now, like something more, which is more controversial, but I still want to ask you, like, I was just curious, I'm sure you heard about like some projects like Pegasus and many others, like which,
Yep.
intelligence from various countries are using. Like, I know it was faded away, but I'm 100% sure that there are like still more advanced now, like technologies like this that can hack your phone and there's zero protection, like literally, like almost you cannot do
Yeah.
anything.
Yeah, I mean, if they can do it, then that other people have figured it out, and there's going to be people that were part of that Pegasus team that will quietly go away and then sell technology, and yeah, to even think that Pegasus died, like, yeah, it's probably worse than we know.
Now, I want to ask you just like to talk a little bit about the future of security, of mobile protection, of our privacy, right? What, as a person who's deeply involved in this topic, right? And what do you think it's going to be like in the coming 5 to 10 years? I'm even afraid to talk about like 50 years, right? Let's talk about 5 to 10.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we are joining that fight. So our CEO participates in a larger group. There's a number of people that he's part of. He's gone in front of Congress and goes to Washington D.C. about every 6 months, and trying to get better data privacy laws. But it seems like I don't know. To me, it seems like almost an impossible task, because technology is it's advancing so fast that you've got AI tools now, and even Musk has come out and said, like, these AI tools are using copyrighted content. There's no way you can stop this now. And I've had some pretty intelligent people, talk to me about being able to just simply like go to like ChatGPT type tool and say, like, I want to SIM swap Mark. Like, tell me how I do it, and then gather all the, and then have that AI tool go gather all the information on me and figure out what are all the weaknesses, all the elements that would be needed to impersonate me, who might be a good target to like bribe. And so I think AI tools are going to just advance so fast that if you're a cybersecurity company and you're not advancing and worried about AI and trying to cover that as well, the sort of the unique thing that we do that's so easy about how we secure is we actually we're old school in the sense that we electronically move you to Afani. And the way that I describe the way we operate our business is that we've become extremely efficient at being inefficient. And what I mean by that is that we do all risky transactions manually. And we do that on purpose because it takes either 1 or 2 manual steps, and also in some cases 2 humans, in order to authorize some kind of transaction. And so I can't remember, there's like an old movie, maybe it was like Independence Day, where the only way that the plane could get in there was because it wasn't like electric or
yes,
to blow up the alien plane. So we're sort of like that little plane of like not having all this technology and APIs and automation that everybody else we compete with does. Because that's one of the big differences. People don't really think about the fact that, like, if you're a carrier, you have tens of thousands of transactions daily, and a lot of those are people leaving, right? They come on, they leave. And it's really costly when somebody leaves. And so what they've done is they've had to engineer that process to make you leaving super cheap. And what we've done is we've actually made that the most expensive part of our process. Provide a price with a compelling package of SIM swap security, $5 million of insurance, international data roaming, hotspot, Wi-Fi, so that people, when they come on our service, they don't want to leave us. And so we've got to be blowing away, like breaking records in terms of churn rate. Our churn rate's less than 1%, and we don't have contracts. So, the industry average is more probably like 35%, and they have contracts on phones and things that keep people there. And so, that's a huge difference that we're providing is, our expense is actually making sure that when you leave, it's expensive for us, but to make sure that you don't want to ever leave. And everybody else on the planet's like, how can I sell this person's data to make revenues, to provide a cheaper service? Like the cheaper the mobile service, the more they're selling your data.
Yeah.
And, something to be aware of. And,
we have a saying. My grandma used to say it all the time, like, that the cheap cheese is only in a mousetrap. So
yeah.
It's like you always have to think about it, like how much your data worth. Right now everything is becoming digital, and the data, is they say, is the king, right? So if you're not protecting your data, I've seen people who were blackmailed. They got like more sensitive data. Like forget about like stealing money. Let's imagine you somehow like protect yourself from accounts, exchanges, bank accounts, but then they can get to your Google Drive and maybe have some very, very sensitive information, like, about your personal life, and then like go and blackmail you like with this information, right? Which is also equally scary, right? And you have to be aware of this.
Yeah.
But I want to focus on positivity, right? I want to focus also on something like good. You mentioned that before we started the interview that you have some promo, that you're running, right? So I want to just like, I want to, hear that, like, what the promo coupon, like the monthly subscription. So talk about a little bit about the pricing, like, of different packages.
Yeah. So we make it really, really easy in terms of our pricing. So we actually have just one plan. And whether you get AT&T or Verizon, it's $99 per month, or it's $999 per year. And that includes your mobile service, the voice data, tax, US, Canada, Mexico, international data roaming, hotspot, Wi-Fi, SIM swap security, $5 million of insurance, and all those wonderful things. Now, what we're doing now over the last couple of months is people such as yourself, if they're geared towards educating people. And so that's big for us, is we want to educate people on how to secure themselves, not necessarily just SIM swapping, but all these different threats around privacy and data collection and the various ways they can do that. And so we're offering promos. So we're offering your community a promo code that's valued at $99. And if you choose our monthly option, again, no contract. If you choose the monthly option, then $99 is applied to your second month. So your second month is free. We also offer a 60-day money-back guarantee. So for $99, basically, you get to use this for 2 months. And if we don't add peace of mind, then you just simply can cancel the service. If you choose the annual plan, which is $999, then it's just the $99 is taken right up the top. So it's just $900 for the year. And so you end up saving the $99 plus, you end up saving around two additional months of costs. We're basically just passing on 100% of what our savings are on the fact that we just don't have to bill every month. And to access that, the link is, I think I sent you the link. I don't remember exactly what it is.
I'll share it in description, so don't worry about it. Yes.
Okay. Yeah. So just follow the link that was going to show up either on the screen or the description. When you go to that page, and there's no tracking as part of this. We're not doing any kind of like, pixel tracking or anything, because our company is just against that. But if you go to that page, you'll see it branded for this YouTube channel. A pop-up will come up, and you just close that out. It's going to be, when you go to the purchasing step, it's going to be auto applied. And you want to use that, because if you back out and you were to go to Afani.com directly and try and buy, you get 0 discount. So this $99 is a benefit to help support the influencers that are out there trying to educate. So it's going to benefit you. And we want people to be part of these kind of communities. And, while you're at it, we'd love have you join our Afani YouTube channel. I put out different videos on how to keep yourself secure, what threats, IMSI catchers and stingrays and DNS hijacking and all the things that people need to worry about. But yeah, take advantage of the discount.
For sure. And I want to also personally, like, endorse it because I use it right now. Once, we've talked first time, I realize how important it is. And a very, very ironic, I want to reveal something like, I would say vulnerable. Like, even when I was hacked, I swear to God, like, even when I was hacked, I still, like, I researched a little bit. I did like all the basic like steps, as you mentioned, the 2FA, changed the passwords, like I changed like, the emails to separate them, but I still haven't got to the level of security that you provide, right? And it's also the
Yeah.
fact that it's just a reminder for anyone who missed maybe the part that is insured is extremely important, right? So if you have somewhere around, like, even like, I'm not talking about millions of dollars, but thousands or tens of thousands, $100,000 of any assets that you have, especially in crypto, I would highly recommend, because this is your protection, this is your life, this is something that is like in the future is going to be more important, and you want to have additional layer of security, just as you have insurance for medical purposes, right? Not necessarily you're going to be sick tomorrow, but you want to you want to know that, God forbid, something happens, you have this additional layer of protection, right? So highly recommend it. And as a tradition, by the way, I haven't notified Mark about it, because our show name's Holistic Investments, right? And for me, I try to ask some deeper questions. So we talked about security, we talked about the privacy, business talk conversations, but I want to ask you a very, like, the most important question in my opinion. Like, what's the meaning of life to you, Mark?
Oh boy. Oh,
And there's no preparation, so, like, this is
yeah,
to be as
yeah.
genuine as possible.
The meaning of life, boy. I don't know I don't know if I could say like what the meaning is. All I can say is like what my goals are. And so my personal goals are to make everybody around me as happy as I can, to try and hang around with as many positive people as I can, and to try and push away people who are negative influences and don't want to, they don't make themselves happy by seeing other people succeed.
Mm-hmm.
And so if there's anything that I've done in the last really 10 years that what I would say would be like a big change is that early on, I never really thought about like who I was hanging out with, and building a network of people and having that sort of long-term support structure. I didn't really think of relationships sort of, being really long-term. I don't mean that in a bad way, meaning just I was sort of like aloof to a lot of things. And now that's what's important to me, is really being around as many positive people as I can. And with all the negativity, that's happening in the world, that's just sort of like the support structure. Is like the friends and the people, and everybody I work with, even like when I hire people, it's like I'm thinking about these kind of things, even when I hire, especially for what we do. Like when we hire somebody, like they have to have like a good soul, they have to be trustworthy, they have
Mm-hmm.
to. It takes us a long time. Like we've been hiring like people like that are friends, just because of the nature of like our business, and so it's good to have a lot of good friends.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I think, yes, your friends is like your net worth, I would say, right? If you have amazing people around you, that's
Yeah,
probably the most important thing, because money can come, money can go away, but if you have good friends who are with you in your lowest moments and in your, when you're succeeding, that's like something that is priceless. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I've heard people say before, like your net worth is your network, but they always tend to say it in a financial sense,
Exactly.
and
Exactly.
that's what's changed for me. Is now it's more in a much more meaningful definition for me. So
Beautiful. Thank you for sharing this, and I fully support this particular direction, because I live my life like that. I'm happy that you're also revealing like some other more valuable things for you, right? Which go beyond just the level of like, okay, how I'm going to help people and how I'm going to make them secure, but also there's much deeper level of connection. And I think I want more like CEOs and managers like you in the world. I think the world will be a better place, right? So
Yeah.
and I'm also hoping that anyone who's hearing this, like I know we had a long conversation about some of the more complex topics, so but anyone who lived till the end will realize that it's much deeper than just than just security. It's about like building the next level of connection, and so that will be holistic, so that will be less toxic, right, and more secure. Thank you so much, Mark. I've had an amazing feeling about like how you shared information. I hope like people who listen to it will appreciate it, and I hope they will become clients of Afani.
Yeah. Come join our mobile secure community and stay safe and secure.